Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is our year to shine, and today is going to be Cheryl Richardson's Art of Extreme Self-Care Challenge for our month of March 2021. This is a chapter that I did a quick little segment on in a video near the end of last year. It was like October time frame, and so I have touched upon a little bit of it, but I'll go into more depth. It's called Let Me Disappoint You. And the reason I brought this into our Simple Abundance year last year when we were going through Sarah Von Brownick's book is because at the time we were talking about having boundaries and being able to say no. And so I had remembered this particular extreme self-care challenge, and I brought it into that video. So is this something that you struggle with as far as saying no, or feeling okay about saying no, or eloquently declining an offer? I told you that in some cases it's become easier for me as time has gone by because I know myself a little bit more, and I can think of how making decisions in the past in a certain way became a negative. So now saying no feels like the natural good thing to do. And I've had to sort of let go of the let me disappoint you. Like, I've had to let go of other people's maybe thinking that they have a judgment of me, I should say. But I did share also with you guys that sometimes when you show that you have boundaries, then the person that you might be afraid of, who might react in a certain way, actually will gain a bit of respect for you. And in their minds, you don't know what they're thinking, but I've had people say to me before, like, wow, I really respect that, like, you want to have a work-life balance or whatever it is. And again, we've talked so much about not being self-centered in a bad way, but scheduling your life around you and your needs, and understanding that this whole art of extreme self-care is about caring for yourself and not just doing things because you're afraid of saying no, or just not knowing how to say it, or just spending hours and hours trying to figure out how to get out of something. So Cheryl, and I have a frisky kitty as normal, as I normally do, I should say. Cheryl gives us some really great thoughts on this one. So we don't usually have coaching skills when we're growing up about how to let someone down with grace and love. So she helps us in this chapter. Our fear of conflict and our desire to keep the peace keep us from telling the truth a lot of the time. It's probably a lot in families or friendships, close relationships, where you might feel like you're going to let somebody down or you're worried about their reaction. And here's a really good point. We want people to like us, and we feel uncomfortable when they don't. One thing that I learned from being a business owner, and this was again from working with a coach, is especially in that position, you have to realize that not everybody's going to like you. And that can be hard. But it takes some time to learn that, and then I think once you do, I'm not saying that you don't care if you offend somebody, but I'm saying that you come to realize that if somebody doesn't like you, that it's inevitable that not everybody's going to like you. But I know that that's not easy, but it's just something that I came to know. Yeah. We don't want to feel guilty. That's another thing she says. And we don't want to disappoint others because we know how bad disappointment feels. Because Cheryl shares with us the very first thing that she says in this chapter is she hates being disappointed. And I would say I'm not a fan of disappointment either. I get my hopes up about things, or I dream up ideas or something along those lines, and then it's like they're dashed. So I don't like to be disappointed either. So how do we disappoint people the right way? It's amazing to see what some people will do to avoid hurting or disappointing others, she says. And then she's talking about a case study with one of her clients that she's working with. What happens when you start to let people down and they get upset? When you practice extreme self-care, there will be a fallout. In fact, you may lose some friendships. You may have thought that some of these relationships were important to you. This is bound to happen because if you tend to overgive, you've trained others in your life to expect it, and they'll question you once you stop. Remember that by making your needs a priority, you're also changing the rules. Have you guys experienced that in your life where either you have gained the ability to have some boundaries and you've been met with some interesting reactions because you didn't have them before, or vice versa, that someone in your life was always the giver and, I don't want to say a doormat, but just didn't want to have any sort of conflict, so did everything to make everyone happy, and then when that person learns how to have a healthy boundary, then it can be a learning experience for friendships and families and trying to figure that out. But it's all about communication, right? Don't be surprised if someone close to you, a best friend, a family member, a spouse, or somebody else, tries to reel you back in by making more demands or tempting you with guilt. When this happens, the worst thing you can do is give in, as that sends mixed messages and teaches others to doubt your word. Instead, you need to be honest, direct, and resolved to take care of yourself. Don't over-explain, defend, or invite a debate about how you feel. The fewer words, the better. Yeah. Sometimes over-talking or explaining can do more harm, for sure. This is why I emphasize having a good support in place prior to starting the work in this book. Left on your own to master the art of disappointment, it's almost a given that you'll let your guard down or lose some of your resolve. Don't allow this to happen. Enlist some help. You'll need the assistance of those who are committed to their own self-care so they can be your advocates as you take a stand for your life. Having support makes it easier to tell and live your truth. Asking others to hold you up when you're feeling wobbly is smart. So then she goes into, and these are some of the ones that I said on that video when I talked about this one. She goes into some sort of coping mechanisms about if you're asked to do something that you know is not going to be possible, sorry about the kitty, possible or really maybe healthy for you because you need to have, say, time for yourself, or you need to go exercise or have somebody watch the kids so that you can do something for yourself. So one good thing is to buy some time between having to answer. So there are two things that you should do when somebody asks you something. First, put space between their request and your answer before quickly responding and saying that yes, you'll help. Take some time to consider the consequences of your response. Always say, I'll need to get back to you. I need to sleep on it. I need to check with someone before I commit, even if that someone is you. Second, let the person know up front that you may not be able to oblige. This makes it less personal. Statements such as, I've recently made a decision to limit the commitments I make, so I may not be able to do this, can take the pressure off should you decide that it's not in your best interest. Yeah, so you don't want to get the person's hopes up and they're thinking, oh good, she's going to help. And then when you let them down, then it's even worse. But if you set it up as, I'm not sure because I have to check on this and I just want to let you know that my time is really limited, or however you word it, then it makes it letting them down a little bit easier. So preparing people early on for the possibility that you won't be able to help them does something else as well. It encourages those who are asking for help to consider other options sooner rather than later. Yeah, you don't want to leave somebody in a lurch because they really were thinking that you were going to say yes. Do a gut check, right? What does that mean? That means we've talked about leading with the heart and listening to your gut. So maybe you also need that time to sit with how the feeling feels of like, how does it feel to help? How does it feel to not help? And how can I come to a comfortable place? And Cheryl says, over the years, I've discovered that those who have a tendency to put the needs of others first commonly make defensive decisions. Rather than thinking about what they want to do, they immediately worry about what others need and how they might respond to hearing no. Practicing extreme self-care means thinking about what your needs are first. Can you do it? Would satisfying this request bring you joy, fulfillment, or pleasure? It is something you're not really thrilled to do, yet you know you would support an important relationship. Let's face it, there will always be times when you do things you'd rather not do to be there for someone you love. Be certain, though, that you're doing it to show love or to strengthen your connection, not out of guilt and obligation, a strategy that can actually backfire and drive a wedge between you and the one that you care about. That's for sure. So yeah, there's things that you might do that are, I mean, when she said, is it going to bring you joy, fulfillment, and pleasure? There's probably some things that you might agree to do because you know it's a friendship is a give and take, or a romantic relationship. You know, it's not all roses all the time, but you know that it's helping to support that relationship. But again, if it's constantly like you're just constantly doing it out of guilt or obligation, then yeah. I mean, I would rather give somebody money in some cases, like if it's something that I could like pay them to have someone help them with it. If I don't have the time, or if it's something that I know that I would hate doing, I would rather be like, how about I give you a check and you can hire this person to help you? Number 3 is tell the truth directly with grace and love. She's learned, she says, that one of the main reasons people struggle with disappointing others is that saying no is because they lack the language to do so with grace and love. Yeah, and so she starts to come up with some ways of saying things. I'm going to read you one of these. So this is something like a person was offered a job transfer, but they don't really want to take it. So this person is saying, this is a tough conversation for me to have. I know how hard you've worked on my behalf to help me find a new job, and I'm deeply grateful. But the truth is that the more I learn about the position, the more I realize that it's not for me. I so appreciate what you've done for me, and I actually considered taking the job, but I couldn't do that to myself, and I know it wouldn't be good for the company. So I've decided to pass, but I want to thank you very much for your time and effort. Please let me know what I can do to help you maintain your relationship with your contact, or whoever. That was like a specific to that situation. So that was very grateful and honest. And even where she said, I actually considered taking the job, but I couldn't do that to myself. And that takes a lot of guts, right? And then these are the things that were in that statement that she says are important. There are 3 important steps. Be honest about how you feel without over-explaining. Yeah, she didn't go into saying like, I couldn't do that to myself because blah, 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 blah. You know, it was like short and sweet and everything. Let the person know that you regret having to turn down the request, if it's true. But don't leave a door open when you need a wall. That's a good point too. Be direct. I feel bad about letting you down, but I need to, which that's a quote. Instead of wishy-washy, like, I don't think I can do it, but if something changes, I'll let you know. Yeah, because that does sound like the person might push you for another opportunity or something. Allow your humanness to shine through. but don't give the impression that you're open to any discussion. The idea is to be considerate with your choice of words while sending a clear message that you need to say no. So tell the truth directly, plain and simple. Stick to 1 or 2 concise lines and explain briefly, if need be, why you can't fulfill the request. Then move on. And then the last thing is, depending on the circumstances, ask how you can support someone with an awkward situation to get them the help they need. Yeah. So like in that situation, if I couldn't help and I thought, well, maybe I could give some money instead or something like that, then maybe I would do that. However, do this only when you have an ethical responsibility that relates to a particular person or situation. For example, if you need to leave a volunteer position in the middle of a fundraising campaign, you could recommend another person to take your place or to help write an ad. Or if you promise to help your best friend paint her living room and then change your mind, you might do what you can to find someone to hire and then share the cost. Yeah. So she has a couple of scenarios. This is on page 20 and 21, where she takes the reader through some similar ways of saying I'm sorry or thank you for this opportunity and things like that. So those are worth reading. All right, so here is our official extreme self-care challenge. It's learning to use your voice. Now that you have the tools you need to protect your energy, you're ready to practice saying no and to take good care of yourself. Over the next 30 days, become a master at using your voice. Your goal is to get comfortable with disappointing people, facing conflicts, dealing with anger, and realizing the possibility that you might hurt someone's feelings. Use what you've learned in this chapter to handle requests in a healthier way. Then each time you decline a request, use the experience as a learning opportunity by writing about it in your notebook or journal. As you think about what happened in those situations, ask yourself, 1, what did I do that I feel good about? 2, what language did I use to state my best position and what worked best? And 3, what would I do differently the next time I'm faced with that request? Good points. Strive to get better at telling the truth by remembering these things. 1, always take your time before responding. 2, always do a gut check and be conscious of the way you feel. And 3, tell the truth with grace and love in clear and decisive ways. So that's our extreme self-care challenge. How do you feel about that one compared to some of the other ones we've had so far? And you know, as you're doing this, it's not out of the question to continue with the other ones that we've done so far. So it could be a cumulative effect throughout the year so that you would have had all of the things by the end of the year. But take it slow. Think about this one. I like her suggestions about journaling a little bit, about things that you encounter. Remember that the next video is going to be the first one with our new book, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. So get your hands on that if you can. And I look forward to sharing that with you. Hope you're having a good start to the month of March, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you as always. Bye-bye.